Is it good? Hey there, teachers. My name is Jennifer Hayes, and I am the I3 at Weaver Elementary. And today I'm going to talk to you about a formative assessment tool that is digital, and it's called Go Formative. In my classroom, I have a classroom set of MacBooks. We're fortunate enough to have that technology in our classroom, so we use that quite a bit in my room. We use a lot of Google Classroom and a lot of other digital learning tools, such as Go Formative and Kahoot and all those other tools that you can use on technology. And so, like I said, today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Go Formative. It's a really neat tool that you can use for formative assessments and also many other things that you can do in your classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is open up a new tab in Google Chrome, and you can just search for Go Formative or simply formative.com. Sorry, I think the internet's a little slow today, so it's just going to take a second. And since I have actually already logged in, it immediately logged me in, but I could go ahead and log out. And the easiest thing to do is you can just go to that login right there. And what I went ahead and did, since my school were really into the Google Drive and everything, I went ahead and clicked Google Login. But if you have an independent account that you would like to set it up with, such as your Garland ISD or another email, you could use that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click Google Login. And that will just get me signed in to my Go Formative. So here is like your home screen. Anytime you log in to Go Formative, this is what you will see. And you can see to the left over here, I have some Go Formatives that I have used with my class. But what we're going to do today is sort of talk about how you set up a Go Formative. So after you have logged in and everything, you come over here and you click in that top left corner, New Formative. And so here we have our editing screen, and this is where you will be able to edit your formative. So over here, you can go ahead and title your Go Formative with the topic that you would like to get some data on. And so I'll just go ahead and do mine over place value. That's a topic that we talk about a lot in the 3rd grade. And if you come over here to the right, you can see where it says assignment type. And this is a really interesting part of Go Formative because you can see all the different things that you can actually use with this website. So you can label this as an assignment, a benchmark. It can just be simple classwork. So maybe you're going to do a digital assignment that day. You can use it as a warm-up, so something that your students come into. Whenever they come into the classroom, they can get it done as an exit slip. You could assign it for homework. You could do independent practice. And you can just see all the different tools that you can use it for. It could be a pre-assessment, a quiz, a reflection, a test, a review, anything that you want to assign this as. So I'm just going to go ahead and title this an exit slip. And you can also label it as other things as well. So if you come to this plus sign right here, this is where you can add your content. And so you'll see right here on the left side, it's where it says add content. And you can see with these red boxes right here, you can embed. So if I click on embed, you can place an embed code here. We don't really want to do that. And if you ever accidentally click on something that you don't want to use, you can just click the trash can over here and it will delete it for you. And going back to add the content, you can also add an image. So if you are going to use this as maybe an assignment or as a formative assessment or as homework, you could actually add an image of what you're talking about just to give your students another reference as they're completing their work. You could do a text block where you're writing something So you could do a text block where you're actually going to type something. Let me go ahead and delete that since we don't really need it for our purposes. So if you wanted to write something, you would use your text block. If you wanted to add a video about what you discussed, you would simply just click on that video and then you could paste a URL from YouTube. And then the last one that I wanted to talk to you about, it's a really neat part. It's called Whiteboard. And this is actually where you can write on the whiteboard. So if you wanted to add that to your assignment, you could actually write. So maybe you're showing your kids how to draw the greater than and less than symbols. You could go ahead and write that, and it's almost as if you are writing on a whiteboard. So just some really neat tools that you can use to add content. And then you just click that done. This is just some really neat tools that you can use to add content to your slide to give your students some extra help as they are completing these Go Formatives. So now we'll get into actually how do you create the Go Formative. And we'll be looking a lot at this add question right here. It's very simple too if you've created other sort of digital assessments. It reminded me a lot of you can do these with Google Forms. You can do these on Kahoot as well. So this is a very similar tool to that. It's just another one that you can add to your toolbox. So we'll go to this add question, and the first thing that you can do is click on this multiple choice right here. And so you can just type in your question. And so here you have your question right here. And then you can click, it's a multiple choice question. And then you can go ahead and you click next to the option that you want to, and you can just go through and write your answers. Okay, and if you wanted to add extra options, you could choose this add option right here. And if you don't want, and if you only wanted, say, 1 or 2 answer choices, then you could just once again click the trash can. Okay, and so once the question is exactly how you want it, you can leave it right there. And then if you want to add another question, you can click the plus sign. So we've looked at this multiple choice. Now we'll look at the multiple selection. And you can see the multiple selection is where you're going to add, you might have 1, 2, or 3 correct answer choices for a question. Okay, so you will just type in your question. And I'm just going to do the same question for time's sake. And then once again, you can go through and you can add in your answer, your options. And with this one, ideally, you would want to have 1 or 2 correct answer choices. And so the students would just have to choose the answer choices that were correct. All right, so then we'll talk about the short answer. The short answer is just when you're going to have a question for your students to respond to. And so this is the question that they will be expected to respond to. And you can go through and you can actually add a correct answer here, but you have to be careful because it is going to match it to your response. So when you're going through and actually viewing the responses, you're going to have to make sure that if it was counted incorrect, that it wasn't based off of spelling or just a simple number. So that way you can make sure your students actually do have the correct answers or not. So that's your short answer right here. And then we'll look at the essay. So your essay is very similar to your short answer, but it's just going to give your students another opportunity to be able to explain their thinking, and you'll want to make sure it's a question that they can respond to with multiple sentences. So try to leave those questions open-ended, and then once again, you can add your correct answer here. But once again, you're going to want to actually preview the students' answers just to make sure that it didn't count those questions incorrectly due to spelling or any other errors that kids often do make. Just because we do just want to make sure that the students understand the content, and we don't want to count them incorrect on things that aren't necessarily pertinent to the assignment. Now, of course, if spelling is, then absolutely, then we can go ahead and take off points for spelling. All right, and this feature right here, I really liked. My students really enjoy it. So this is the show your work example, and so I really like this tool because it really gives the students an opportunity to be creative, and so I could have them do something like, what digit is in the tens place in the number . So, and I would actually have the students, because my question is what digit is in the tens place in the number 84,567. I could actually have them write that digit using the mouse pad on their MacBook, and they would have to write that digit into the box there. But you could also use that with a lot of other different things. You could have students for, the onset sounds. You could have them do that for just drawing the greater than, less than sign. So there are a lot of other ways that you can use that tool. And I just think it's a really neat way for our students to be able to show their learning. And it's also something that's highly engaging for them. And it's very fun for them to be able to use that tool that way. And then our last one right here is going to be true or false. And so that's when you simply ask a true or false questions, and your students would either have to click true or false. So making a Go Formative is very simple. It pretty much walks you through the assignment as you're doing it. And then once you are done, you can go ahead and you would come up here and click that assign question. And I'll talk to you about this in a minute, but you can see that I've actually already set up some of my Google Classrooms. As I said earlier, I use Google Classroom quite a bit. And so this is an awesome way for me to be able to use Go Formative and Google Classroom at the same time. And it saves you time from having to go, it saves you time from having to have kids write down a really long URL or type in a really long URL. And so how you do that, so you have your Go Formative, and I'm just going to go ahead and assign that to one of my classes. Okay, and you can see right here. So let me just go out here. I'll go to the home screen. And so you can see where I have classes right here. So if you click on classes, this is how you're going to share. This is how you're going to get your Google Classrooms into Go Formative. And so you can just go ahead and click that import from Google Classroom. And so if you click on that, it will actually take you to your Google sign-in. And it will allow you to choose those classrooms. Mine have already all been added, so it won't really look the same on yours, but I just wanted to let you guys know that you could actually add your Google Classroom into Go Formative, and then that's how you're quickly able to choose a class that you want to share this assignment with. All right, sorry, I accidentally closed out of that. So let me go back to my formatives. And I had already shared that with one of my classes. All right, so I had already assigned that to one of my classes. Okay, I'll just go ahead and click update. All right. And you can go down here to this view join instructions. And this is how your students are going to be able to actually get to your Go Formative. You can get a link right here. You could also use Google Classroom. So it says right here for your synced Google classes, you can post to Google Classroom, and then you can also embed it elsewhere. But your students are going to have to be actually logged on to Google Classroom in order for you to be able to do that. So back here where you can see on my home screen where I have all of my assignments, you can see where it's telling you where I actually have shared my Go Formatives with my classes. So I can see I shared this first one to my English Language Arts one, and I've shared this second one to my math one. And so here's another one that I have created just so you can kind of see a more completed project. And so I have this first one that I did as a multiple choice. And once again, these are questions that you could use however you wanted to in your classroom, whatever your content is. That's why I really like this tool, because it can be used with any sort of content, any ability level of your students as well. So you can see here's an example of a multiple choice question that I created. And then the students would just have to choose the correct answer choice. And then here's what I was talking about earlier with the show your work. So I wanted the students to be able to draw the appropriate symbol that belonged in the blank space between the numbers. And so all they would have to do is click in that box and then use the mouse pad on their MacBooks to draw the symbol. And then here's a multiple selection question. This is the one that I had talked about. You're going to want to have at least one or two correct answers in there, or you obviously want to have one, but you want to have at least 2 to 3 correct answers in there, so you're actually really monitoring what the students do understand. So I just asked them to choose which of the following statements were true, and you can see how they can select more than one answer choice. All right. So, and when you're on your Go Formative, how you actually are able to choose the correct answer choices, you can see right here. So on this first one, let me go back to that first one so I can show you how to add your answer choices. So you can see right here, answer choice C would be correct. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that answer choice, and that's just going to lock it in, because Go Formative can actually grade for you. And we all like to have our jobs being a little bit easier. So whenever the students do choose that answer, it will be able to grade for, it will be able to say if it's right or wrong. And then I didn't make an answer key for this one just because, just in case the drawings don't look exactly the way I drew it. I don't want the students to be counted wrong for that, since I do only have third graders, and sometimes, their fine motor skills aren't the best. And so you can see this problem right here. I'm going to go ahead and choose the answer choices that are correct. And you can see down here where it makes that key, because here is my key. So this will be the correct answer. So you can just go ahead and click on the correct answer choices there. And then I wanted to draw your attention to my short answer one. I had just said write the expanded form of 67,823. And you can see down here where I actually put in 2 answer choices that could be correct just in case the students didn't do that equals 67,823. So this one, if the students did it the first way or the second way whenever they're responding to the questions, then it wouldn't count either of those ways wrongs. But if they put it in a different way, it might get counted incorrect, and I would have to go back and check it. So here is a short answer one. And once again, I did the same thing that I had done here, or that I did up above as a short answer. And this was the expanded notation. So once again, I have actually 2 answer choices that are correct. So that way, you know, if the students didn't do the equals 245,785, then it wouldn't count them and correct. And another thing that we'll talk about is the select standards. So it's really interesting here. We can select our standards here. So that way you're really able to talk about if your assessments are actually aligned to the standards. So you just choose our state, which is Texas, and then you can go through and click on your grade and your subject. And so you can just go through and choose the one that best fits yours. So I'll probably pick this Math 3.2a. So we'll do, and you can see right down here, all I have to do is select my standard. And then right there, and I can actually go through and add that to all of mine because now I have it set up as 3rd grade math. And so I'll just go ahead and do that to all of my standards right here, or all of my questions, add my standard. And of course, if some of my standards were different, then there would be no problem with me changing that standard. So this first one, this one right here. And then, so all those are 3.2a, and then I can actually change this first one to this 3.2b, describing those mathematical relationships. And then once again, just like I had shown you earlier, you can go ahead and assign that. And if you ever, like today, I actually changed this assessment. I added those standards in for you guys. So I'll just go ahead and I'll go ahead and tell it that I'll let the students, I'll return the scores after a student submits, and then we'll return correct answers after students submit. And I'm going to go ahead and update that. So anytime you update it, it's just going to update the assessment that you have in your classroom. So mine is right there. All right, and that is Go Formative. And I have my moderator, Kelly Chinsky. She's been over here asking and answering questions for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing just so I can talk to you guys. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna, but I didn't say goodbye or anything.
Oh yeah, yeah, you can say goodbye. I mean, yeah, you can just say thanks for.
Okay. And thank you so much for watching. And Kelly Chinsky will do the CPE link to the side. And thank you so much for watching. And Kelly Chinsky will do the CPE link to the side. And thank you so much for watching. And Kelly Chinsky will do the CPE link to the side. And thank you so much for watching. And Kelly Chinsky will do the CPE link.
Yeah, that is good.
So do I exit out of everything?
Yeah.
I log on, it won't, it might.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
It was only her and
Okay. Wasn't too sure, was it?
No.
Okay, because that's what.
I was just realizing I can put my kids on here.
Yes, yeah, just invite your students,
Yeah.
and then that way you don't have to, they don't have to enter, because you have the young ones.
Yeah. There's a couple of times where I don't know because there's more than one kid with that name in the district,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know which one's theirs.
Oh, yeah, but then, and that's on Skyward.
Oh, okay. It was good. It was a lot. I was like, ooh. See this Patrick Craig obviously.
So what did I do wrong? Because when I clicked on it to try to get back, should I not have clicked on it?
No, it was fine.
Okay, because I was trying to get back to see my face, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh well.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
you just trying to do a reversal screen share, but
Oh, okay, didn't work out. Oh well. I felt bad my
You
email
had to-
was up there, but at least it was Kathy's.
yeah,
Oh well.
she was the only one on there. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they ended up looking at them later though, so they have to like. I like it. It's super cool, but I feel like it would take a long time to make all that stuff. I was hoping that it would like generate a bunch of stuff for you.
What?
Like to go formative, like that.
Well, I know. Well, that's why I know, and that's why I was like, let me go back to my other one because it didn't.
Isabella Mendoza, that's like a
Yeah, that would probably be a pretty common one.
yeah.
I think we actually have an Isabella Mendoza here.
And Anthony Garcia.
Oh yeah. Oh, they look at them later to like